Hello, welcome to the People Profit Podcast, the show where we flip the script on traditional business thinking and prove that when you put people first, profits follow. I'm Sandra Coker, your guide on this journey to more engaged teams, loyal customers, and a healthier bottom line. These episodes are brought to you by Human Power Solutions, helping organizations unlock the human potential that powers performance. Whether you're a leader, an HR pro, or a curious change maker, buckle up. We're diving into fresh stories, real-world strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Ready to turn your workplace into a profit-powered people machine? Let's get started. Today's guest is someone who knows firsthand how voice, your actual spoken voice, can be your leadership superpower. I love this next guest. Laurie Mabelis is a speaker coach who's helped leaders go from terrified to TEDx, from rambling to riveting. She's not here to teach performance tricks. She's here to help people speak with presence, purpose, and actual emotional clarity. And if you've ever sat through a meeting that made you feel more distant than inspired, you'll want to hear this one. Now, truth be told, Laurie and I have a bit of history. She helped me find my own voice at a time when, honestly, I wasn't sure I had anything to say. So this is both going to be a conversation with a coach and a bit of a reunion. We're talking about the moments when words change outcomes, how speaking becomes strategy, how presence shapes perception, and how leaders can speak not just to people, but with them. Let's dive in. Hi, Laurie.
Hey, Sandy. I'm so excited to have this conversation. This is going to be fun.
It is. I'm so excited. So thank you so much for your time. You're over there in the Netherlands. Laurie, I would love to start with our story. You and I went through a little transformation together, I guess you could say. What did you see in me early on, and how do you help others find that turning point?
Yeah. And I love how you shared that in the introduction. You said you were not even aware that you actually have a story. And this is what I hear from so many people. They look up to other people standing on the stages in the corporate world, like the ones who are holding the meetings, the one who are doing the presentations. And then it's so easy to think, but that's just for them.
Yep.
That's just not who I am. But what I'm quite passionate about and what I was very privileged to help you with is also be the mirror, show a mirror of the greatness that I see in you and the story that you have inside of you, and to unravel that. So what I help people with is find the story that's within them, and then find a way to create a story, or like to verbalize it in a way where other people get something out of this. So it's not you and your story, right? So you have like amazing parts of your story, amazing moments in time. Like I remember that I learned from you that you're a motorcyclist. I'm like, that's not, there's things about your story, about you creating a best-selling book, like all these beautiful parts of you. And then at the same time, like other people don't really care about that. Right. So how do you now utilize those moments in time? How can you now use your story, which is your life experience, but phrase it in a way where other people are excited about listening to it? And that's kind of the magic that I'm very passionate about.
And so tell me a little bit about how you got started doing this. You're a fairly young professional. You're a little younger than my oldest child. And yet you really, your leadership style and how you, how did you get here? Because your story is amazing.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if I told you the whole story. So I'll kind of like wire back in time, but then also jump even further in time. Because where it actually all started, like where the corporate stuff started, is I was a corporate innovator. And that basically meant that I was going into corporate leadership teams to help them innovate. Now, that's very vague. So how we were doing that, we were holding events, entrepreneurial events, where the leadership teams, but also the employees, like everybody was participating. And then they would think of a challenge, and then they would come up with a solution for the challenge. And then they would pitch their ideas to the judges. And those judges were real people within the organization. They would actually say, this idea is so cool. We actually want to implement it.
Love it.
What I've noticed, like doing this again for pretty damn big companies like Google, ministries in the Netherlands, governmental like for schools, like all systems. It was every single time that the people actually thought about it the most, did the most research, came up with a proper idea. They did
Yeah.
not win these competitions. And
Mm.
maybe you recognize this from people in the workplace. Like there's all these underdogs with their incredible, amazing ideas. They just don't get the quote unquote stage that they deserve. And this is kind of like a little bit back in my personal story is I grew up like my mom, she just visited me today. She would say, Laurie, that's not true, but this is how I remember it. Like I
Right.
remember myself being really uncomfortable with people,
Yeah.
really, really uncomfortable. I remember this moment where I was eating dinner. I was probably like 10 years old or something, and we were having dinner in a restaurant with my whole family. And I ordered like a Diet Coke because that's what was cool kids were drinking, right? And it
Yeah.
didn't have this thing on the top that you can screw off, or you had to click it, you know? Do you know
Yeah.
what it's called?
Yeah. The
Well,
twist. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't have the tool with us. So I said, Dad, can you open it for me? He's like, I don't have the tool. Why don't you ask the waiter? And I remember, I just still remember to this day, I was thinking, Dad, like, how can you say that to me? Like, I'd rather do not drink for a whole day than I'm going to ask this to a stranger. Like, I was so uncomfortable. I was the
Wow.
one who literally one time did a presentation and I printed the slides and I put them in front of my head. So first of all, nobody would see my head. And second of all, I would literally print the text that I was reading on the back. So I thought nobody would notice, but of course everybody did. Like
Yeah.
I was so uncomfortable. So back to the corporate story. When I saw those people with those great ideas, I felt so much empathy for them because I was stuck with myself. So sometimes I say it just didn't sit right with me and I wanted to help those people, which is complete truth, but not the complete truth. Because part of me was just like, I don't want anyone else to go through this because I
Yeah.
know how it feels. And it's like tears you apart from within. So that's where I really started to think like, can I facilitate something for these people where they would feel more clear, more confident that we can practice this? And this is kind of where it all started.
Yeah, I think, you really resonate. I think because the technology, especially for our younger professionals who are up and coming, they've been living in technology and kind of behind the screen. And this art of presentation, this art of having these conversations and being able to sell your ideas is a little bit lost in our world right now. So that's why I'm so and honestly, guys, those of you listening, if you're watching, Lori is amazing with people. I can't imagine her like being shy or not want to ask for strangers. So if you get a chance to meet her, she's fabulous. So I do think it's a lost art. So, you've done coaching the last 3 years. I met you through the mastermind with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. So that's where you and I met, and where we continue to cultivate our relationship. And you do a lot of coaching and you've got individual classes, individual coaching classes, you've got group classes, you've got a lot of things going on and you've seen a lot of people. Can you tell me about one of your favorite coaching moments, like a scared to stage kind of arc? What clicked for them when they kind of got to the place where they're like, oh, I got this. And what surprised you?
Yeah. So that is a really good question. And it has a lot to do with what we started with today. Because a lot of people just have this belief like it's just not for me. Like
Yeah.
Lori, and exactly what you said, Lori, you're so good in this. And now nobody believes me. So fortunately, I can watch some videos of me speaking at the beginning and you will understand what I'm saying.
I've seen it.
Horrible. It was pretty horrible. And felt so uncomfortable and it was not perfect. And I was just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that kept me going is somehow, and this is not, you know, like for me, it's this within feeling.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not even something I can do or that I'm saying, this is my biggest passion. It's like this inner urge that I just feel I need to keep going with this. And I'm not able to explain what it's like, but I think everybody has their own. Some people call it a whisper, some people call it a calling, some people call like something you just want to learn more of. And
Right.
what I notice is that the most people who come to me, their rational mind and their heart is not in alignment. So
Mhm.
they come with all these doubts and they say, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know what my story is, but I've been dreaming about being the one on stage. But
Yeah.
I see myself on that stage being introduced. It's like hundreds of people watching. And there's just such disalignment that they're kind of asking me, like, am I
Mhm.
crazy for being the one who's willing to dream this big? Because this is what I feel right now. This is what I believe about myself right now. And the ones who are willing to have this conversation and to knock on the door, like those are the brave ones. So
Yeah.
are you, right? They're like, even though I feel uncomfortable, I'm still willing to consider it could be possible.
Right.
And that's all you need. Sometimes it's just a little bit of courage and a guide and a roadmap. That's all you need.
And
So
that's one thing that you give to everybody is a framework. Like it makes sense when you go through your course. It makes the whole process really makes sense. And I think TEDx and TED is such a huge goal for people. But there's a framework, just like with anything. And
yes.
that's what I really loved about that. Right. So, we talk about like people feeling like who am I, and not to- and no, and this is really just about being on stage, like we talked about. It's a leadership gap. Speaking is a leadership gap right now, and oftentimes these leaders now feel off balance because there's too many facts or they're just not grounded. Where do you see leaders in this corporate setting? Where do you see where they're off base? Where do you see that showing up the most? And
Yeah.
how do you help leaders reset their thinking when it comes to
Yeah, let's start off with like leaders are speakers and speakers are leaders. If you're a leader and you cannot speak, like, can we agree that there's people out there with terrible ideas, but they're able to influence people to take action? And then
yes,
there's people with really, really great ideas who are just not able to convince other people, and it becomes icky. It becomes convincing. It becomes, yes, but it's like that's not the energy of true leadership.
right,
True leadership is magnetic. True leadership sets a dot on the horizon and lets the team be flexible on the approach. Or a leader sets out the approach, but the people within the structure are able to find their own flow and their own rhythm. That's what a real leader is. And
right,
communication skills are like the core of that because you need to be able to convey the vision. so,
yes,
right? So when you share, like a lot of leaders share a lot of factual information,
yeah,
I think there's this balance. There's a balance where on one side of the spectrum, and as a listener, it's gonna be fun to see where you fit on the balance. Like on
yeah,
one side, there's this factual, super prepared. I did the research. I know the numbers. I know the trends, like very factual based, a lot of PowerPoint slides, a lot of text within the slide, a long time. And most of the time, it's not the most fun ones to listen to,
right,
right?
yes, yes,
Which, by the way, when we're looking at leadership and speakers, that often comes from insecurity.
mhm,
Because when you have a lot of slides, when you have a lot of preparation, you can fall behind that preparation,
right,
right? So it comes a lot from over preparing and insecurity. So on one side, very factual. On the other side is kind of like the charismatic wingers, the ones that are like, yeah, I got this. No worries. We're
yeah,
vibing through. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. You're motivated. But then the end, like, so what are we really going to do now? Like,
right,
I'm up, but there's chaos in our department. So what are we going to do? And the real leaders who are speakers find themselves in the elegant middle, where they
mhm,
on one side have a structure to speak through, and on the other side bring in storytelling so people see a picture. We can talk more about storytelling if you want to, and about the research that's been done about storytelling and why it's not just theater, what a lot of people think within corporate organizations. It's like, I'll do that once the facts are shared. But
right,
in reality is if you really care about people doing what you say, you need to include this. And that's where the dance comes in, especially, and this is what my personal viewpoint is all about. It's about you being you. So you need to find out like what that means for you. So like how you are able to use the frame and use it as a vehicle and not an outcome.
Right. Right. Which is amazing. And that framework, when you think about the outcome before you think about what you want to say, right? So I think that was a thing about your framework is what do you want that outcome to look like? So then instead of like thinking through, I was overthinking. Was I not an overthinker? In that, like, how many videos did I send you? Like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Right. Um, you know, but why is that such a game changer for leaders? So, if you think about you have 3-point structure, the storytelling use, live coaching kind of example. So like talk about like what that framework and that storytelling. I would love to hear more about that because I agree with you. When I talk to people about meetings and they're like, oh, we had a meeting. I'm like, well, what did you do? Well, we talked about our numbers of level. I'm like, oh, so you just reported out. Right. And how exciting was that? So, we're always talking about like making our meetings effective so that people remember them. And that is through stories, whether it's client stories, whether it's coworker stories or whatever. Right. So talk a little bit about that framework and when you're preparing for a meeting, think about the outcome first and then working backwards.
Yep. There's 4 steps in this framework. And let's dive into number 1, because that really sets the intention and is the foundation of all. It is exactly what you just said. There's a difference between the question you ask yourself, number A, what information do I want to share? And B, what outcome am I looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we're starting off with what are all the elements that I would love to share and how can I put that into a mix that's understandable for people, then you come from a lens from yourself to others. But
Mm-hmm.
when you come from what is the outcome that I want to achieve today? First and foremost, you can breathe a bit because there's space. There's some
Right.
flexibility. There's not this rigid schedule of information that you need to push through people's throat. But now there is this outcome, this goal that you're looking for
Yeah.
to achieve. Could you have an example if that makes it easier to understand?
Tell us a story. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I had a client and she really wanted to go for a TEDx. And what his idea was, he was a programmer. He called himself a nerd, which makes it sometimes harder because now you're talking about all these technical ideas and other people are not really understanding it. So he was like, Laurie, how do I now share this idea that I created this product with my tech stuff and it's now in the African rainforest and it scans for elephants. And every time that an elephant is scanned, it sends out a message to a ranger to protect wildlife. Like incredibly inspiring.
It's
And he
amazing.
was like so TEDx worthy. So he's like, I have all these ideas because first I came up with this thing and then I programmed this and then this is what it looks, Laurie. Look, when you open it, this goes to there and then it goes to the satellite. It's very different than everything else in the industry. I'm like, oh my God, I don't understand any of what you said. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So he's really focused on all the information that he had that he wanted to share with people and all the stuff that he wanted to push through people's throats because it's so important. It's all part of the ideation. And
Right.
yes, also in meetings, right? You've done some steps and it's important and it's chronological and this is correct. And you're right.
Yeah.
You're when you come from that point of view. But when you're willing to scope out and say, what is the outcome that I'm here to achieve? And I asked this to him, I'm saying, Thijs, what is your outcome, man? Like, what is the aim that we're after? And he was like, whoa, the aim that I'm after is I actually want to inspire other people to do good with their talent. Because I'm a tech nerd. He called himself, like I'm paraphrasing. Like
Right.
I'm a tech nerd and I thought I was able to code. Like that's all I was doing. But this got on my path and now with my coding skills, I was
Right.
able to help and I never could have imagined that that was possible. So I want people to see that whatever gift they have, they're able to do good in the world. And
That's amazing.
it is, right. And it pivoted the complete talk.
Yeah.
Instead of him talking about all the little nuances of how he designed it, it didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So now we were able to breathe. We were looking at his time of his life and see, and this is the next step. This is step number 2 of the 4-step framework is what moments in your life, what stories, what scenes, what specific moments can you utilize to make that point?
Yeah.
And maybe you can share a little bit about your own experience, how that freed you up to think a little bit more like not even outside the box, but more like from above. Instead of just sharing information, you were able to see which stories do I actually want to use for that? Because there's some flexibility there.
Yeah. And that's what I loved about that's what because I'm a type A, not super I find myself not being super creative, but that's wrong because I have a lot inside of me. And that's what you kind of brought out. You as we I'm like, I don't have a story for that. You and then we start talking to you and you would be like, well, that's a story. And I'm like, what? And it was really interesting to kind of and now I'm like, every time something happens to me, I'm like, I got to write that story down, you know? So there's this story library that I have, you know, as I'm building out different talks. And I never really thought about it before. So for me, you're right. It freed up my brain to think, you know, everything every day there's a story that comes that relates to something that I want to share. And it's such a cool experience. I think for anybody, really.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And that is, I guess, the answer to the question as well for everybody in leadership positions right now. Is like instead of forcing people to listen through all your important stuff, it's like, what is the end result that you want to that you're really after, and what stories can you pick to facilitate that transformational journey? And for your listeners, Sandy, I got some gifts that I can share, and one of them, you inspiring me with this, I can share the story library. So I have the template and a complete explanation video, and I'm more than willing to share that with everybody listening to this.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I'm excited. And I think our audience is going to be super excited too. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate that. What's
Yeah.
good framework 3 and force number 3 and 4? I want to kind of wrap that and I want to move on to something different. So what's
Yeah, also I keep it short. Like number 3 is when you have the aim, when you have the content, and you have the stories, you want to glue it all together,
yeah.
right? You don't want this to be a story and then, oh, by the way, there's also something that I want to share. You want to make this a smooth ride. So this is about gluing it together, have elegant transitions, have a good beginning, a good opening, a good end. People decide in the first 7 seconds whether or not they're going to listen to you. So you need to be intentional with all the space without per se needing a script. So this is really about the approach and the understanding of how that works. And then step number 4, which is really the advanced steps, the delivery. And I don't mean like how you use your hands and how you use your body. It's also important. But the most important part with this is the way you engage your audience. So instead of being an interesting storyteller where people are like lean back and, oh God, it's so interesting. You want them to be part of the experience. And there's a lot of different techniques, speaking techniques to use. We already talked about a couple of them, right? On how to really engage your audience and make them part of it. So that would wrap it up to number 4.
Love the framework. It's very systematic. So thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. I'm super excited about that. And when you think about when teams, companies, they start to speak differently, what happens when they start to speak and listen differently to each other? You mentioned it in some of the pre-work that we talked about, light year and pitch culture. How does that change when people work together, when they use that culture?
When they use a pitch culture,
Yeah.
yeah, to really improve the organization from within, right? Is like to get some, because this is what we're talking about, right, Sandy? Like, if you really want to go next level with your organizations, it has to come from the people. So how can you now empower your people to actually go do that? And again, and I go back to that frame of the beginning. It's like there's really great people with incredible ideas who are just
Yeah.
not able to convey it or even share it or have the confidence or have the realization that what they have is actually super valuable. And on the other side, there might be the let's call them the screamers, the one who are always there, always sharing, always getting attention somehow. And then they didn't really think it through. So in order to stimulate that from within, there's a couple of different frameworks or different activities that you can do within an organization, right? And
Yep.
one of them could be a lunch and learns, where one of the people within the organization is able to share their ideas with everybody else. So they're kind of forced to share their ideas in a safe space. One other can be like a pitch culture, right? Like the pitch of the month. Or what I've seen within organizations as well is they had their internal TEDx. It's like an internal TEDx. Like, what is your idea worth sharing? So we get to know each other on a personal level, and you can even connect this to what's your idea worth sharing for within the organization. Like, what cool concept or ideas do you have for us to improve? And you connect it to some sort of celebrative moment, which is the stage.
Running a business is hard. Developing your people shouldn't be. At Human Power Solutions, we act as your outsourced chief learning officer, designing custom learning and development experiences that actually move the needle. No fluff, no cookie cutter workshops, just results. Whether your people need better communication, stronger leadership, or less burnout, we provide strategic solutions that align with your goals and keep your team moving forward. Visit hpowersolutions.com and unlock your team's full potential without disrupting operations.
I love that idea. That is brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. It's because so many people, we talk to our leaders all the time. And, our leaders, especially at the exec level, don't actually know all the time what's going on. And they don't always know what the day-to-day activities and the issues and the challenges that they have. And I always call it the feet on the street. Those are the people that we work with, the people that are in it, doing the work, and giving them a voice to share their ideas in that kind of format is brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. And it shows, I guess, also different leadership styles, right? Because what is a leader? Like, what is a leader? Is it someone who is higher in rank? Is it someone who always sets the tone? Or is it someone who is able to spot talent within the organization really fast and is humble enough to get them the stage?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that can be a tool as well to find out like what leadership really is about, and for you as a leader, right? Because there are different styles. There's not a right or wrong. There's just different ways to do it, I guess.
Right. You're speaking the people profit culture right there. So thank you. And I think it's interesting too. You have like a pre-speech ritual, and every time, right, and before your classes, and there's music and heart opening. I love it because it just, at first you're a little uncomfortable, and then you start to like do a little dance, and then you're like, yeah, you're doing all that, right? Just kind of brings you in. So tell us what made you do that, and why does it matter more than people realize? Because I'm like that's weird, but then I'm like super fun.
Sometimes I'll reveal a secret. Sometimes I like to be like a little extreme to make people consciously uncomfortable. We can talk about speaking all day. Leaders are speakers, great. But what is the number one biggest fear of humankind?
Being embarrassed in front of other people.
Yeah, it's public speaking. So it can be the biggest catalyst for impact, the biggest catalyst for growth within the organization, the biggest catalyst to also become the perceived leader, not just on paper.
Right.
But it's also super scary, especially when a lot of people expect stuff from you as a leader. So now the barrier just increases. It becomes harder from the place that we have in our mind. And when we have these thoughts like, am I good enough? Is this going to land? Is this blah, blah, blah? All the thoughts that come into mind, that basically is everything to do how you're going to look compared to other people, or what other people think of you. So it's very much of a focus on yourself. And what I've noticed, especially when I was starting, is when I'm focused on myself, where am I with my focus? I'm not really here to deliver.
Right.
So what happens? I probably forget some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I don't feel good enough for the stage, people will feel that. And in the end, I'm there for them. So what can I do? What can I think? What can I prepare so that I'm actually present and delivering something that matters to the people on the other side?
Love that.
Like right here, and I use this example quite often because I'm super open about it now, but I was very uncomfortable in the beginning, and that's my accent. Like, it's not just the accent, it's sometimes like the words that I'm making up that don't exist, that I'm not aware of, that I'm making them up, or saying wrong that I don't even know. And before
Right.
I'm so embarrassed, and I would feel like stupid or not good enough, and like, why do I say that? And now what I did is I changed the meaning of that to, oh my God, I can be super comfortable and confident while being imperfect. That's
I
the
was,
standard that I want to set. That's a role model I want to be. So now instead of being embarrassed about it, I use it as a strength. I'm
yeah.
not running away from this. I'm running towards it. I'm leaning into it. So the prep, what I do right before I get on stage, I'm thinking about the gift that I'm able to share with the people that are sitting there. What I've
Mm,
noticed is I have no idea what the impact of my words are. I've got people coming up to me that were looking at me like I'm like, they're so bored.
yeah.
And I started to doubt myself because their face is so like, I'm like, come on now, like help me a bit, help a
Just
girl out. And then they would come to me like in the toilet saying, what you said there, like, I I want to thank you. Like you were not so excited when I looked at you. But
yeah.
then I noticed that was my judgment of what that face would mean. And they were so present with me. So what I specifically do before I go up, I get myself in state, which for me means a song.
Yeah.
So what you're referring to is what we do in the public speaking academies. Every single time we start, we have this one song and it goes a little bit like this.
Amazing.
Amazing. And we just repeat it all over. I'm not bad myself, but you're amazing.
Amazing.
Right? And I just want you to know because it's true. And the song for me is now so much positive association that it totally gets me in state. So I'm doing it for myself and I'm doing it for everybody else. And what I do as well is I focus on my heart
Yeah.
because my head can play fun tricks. Like we all know it. And I want you to know that wherever you are on the journey, wherever you are on the speaking journey, when you see me sometimes online and you think the same as saying like, oh my God, this girl would never be uncomfortable. Just know that it is. Just
Mhm.
know that at some point we have different relationship with these thoughts and we give it different meaning, but they will always be there. There's just the time that they have are just a little shorter and we are able to dance with it instead of
Yeah. Yeah.
over.
Look, it's so fun. It's very, I'm listening to what you just said there. Same experience this week. I was actually doing a roundtable with a group of new business owners and I've got some experience. So they were asking a bunch of questions in an organized kind of thing. And this one person that was in the group, this face was just flat. Like I'm like, I have no idea if he's looking at me like I'm a nut. I'm sharing stories of my entrepreneurial journey and giving them ideas and things to be thinking about as they grow and scale their businesses. And it was just, I couldn't crack a smile. So I was like, and I'm pretty funny, I think, myself. I left and I got a note from the person that organized it and was like, thank you so much. And so was so grateful that you came because the things that you said were things that his board, you were so honest and so upfront. And his board wasn't helping him in the way that you did. And I'm like, what? Because it was one of those moments. And what happens, I think, sometimes is we assume, like you just said, but what he was doing, that was his personality. He was just absorbing and taking in and processing. He was in the conversation in his own world, which I think that's where you want to get people is as you're talking, you want to have them relate it to where they are and how it can help them. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. And I think that's what you do. I know that's what you do. Do you think that there's a difference between executive leaders who speak and present all the time and middle management and people that haven't? Like, do you think emotionally there's a difference there?
Yeah, for sure. So when you want to become better in any skill, and this one specifically speaking, there's the heart and there's the head. And let's say the heart is also the body. It's like, what have you practiced over and over again? For example, I'm swimmer. So when I was young, it was my dream to go to the Olympics, to be an Olympic swimmer. I went to the Olympics, but then to watch, I didn't make it. But it was part of my life for a really long time. And in order for you to get the freestyle, like the proper technique, like get your elbow up and then to go there, like this is a movement that I did so many times in my life.
Yeah.
When we go to the gym and we want great abs, is it going to the gym once, or do we need to do this on a consistent basis?
Right.
So for people who are presenting more often, even though like at some point, let's say we have a gap year or a year where you're more behind an office or whatsoever, like your muscle remembers. You've done so many repetitions that
Yeah.
you're able to overcome those challenges way easier than someone who is, let's say, on the beginning of the journey.
Yep.
And what we talked about before, when you're a leader, then you also create this maybe internal expectation of what you
Mhm.
think you need to be like in order for you to do a good job.
Yeah.
And that is something that we need to lean into, not run away from. That's something that we don't want to put more pressure on, but we actually want to release that tension. And we can do that by maybe asking this one question: what needs to happen for me in order for me to feel successful as a speaker?
Yes.
Like, do you remember what your rules were in the beginning of when we worked together, Sandy? What were your rules about what a good speaker means? What did you needed to become in order for you to know, oh, I'm a badass as a speaker?
Yeah. I needed to be more confident in what I had to say. I needed to really kind of want to learn the delivery and the stories, but I really, for me, it was sharing is so uncomfortable sometimes, right? And so you have to I think I had to become a little bit more open, a little more vulnerable. And because I wanted the message to really resonate and get people where they were at. So, my aim and my through line, which Laurie talks about all the time during the academy, but the aim and the through line really for me, it really needed to hit home for people. So I needed to learn that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking through line, we're talking confidence, we're talking storytelling. And then let's just look at storytelling on its own, right? You needed to become a better storyteller. And when
Yes.
I unfold storytelling, it has so many different nuances and steps, right? The first skill that you need to acquire is you actually need to recognize what stories are. Because in order for you to become a great storyteller, let's start with being aware what stories are. Then
Right.
we need to know, okay, now how do we connect that story now to a teaching point? Because I love this storytelling bullha, but how do I now implement this with factual information that I want to convey? So that's step number 2. Then we want to talk about, okay, how do you now pick the right story for the right teaching point? Then like there's so many different nuances. So when you say I need to be a better storyteller, it's like, whoa, that's a big goal. Like milestone with like 20 different sub steps. So if we see that milestone as our ultimate outcome, which is amazing, but it's not fair for us to expect that in one run. And I've heard so many, it's like I just want to say stop saying it's like,
Yes.
wow, but that's a big goal. Like that's big. That's really big. Let's maybe focus on everything else you're saying besides actually makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
How the like it's not distracting if it's not distracting. So what I would say for those mid-tier leaders in middle management is have grace for yourself and
Mhm.
create a lot of repetitions.
Yeah.
And don't stretch yourself to an extent that you have panic attacks. Just have group meetings with a little bit more people in it. And then just make stuff up where you can practice. At some point, I wanted to create a lot of practice rounds for myself. And I just created a lot of stages. I just
Right.
was looking at my own calendar. I'm like, where am I talking to people already? And how can I now include one story in that one conversation? Or how can I make sure that in a training that I'm already doing, maybe I can do a 5-minute opening?
Yes.
And so you start to create some practice momentum in stuff that you're already doing instead of thinking about this big thing with speaking on a big stage. Now you just build up that anxiety and you're not actually enjoying it. And that's what I really believe in is when you enjoy speaking, you get better into this. And when
Yes.
you enjoy it, you actually do a good job because you're not overthinking. And when
Yeah.
you enjoy it, you're magnetic. So you pull people in. And isn't that what real leadership is all about?
It is pulling people in for sure, and thinking about, so this obviously really does light you up. You've lived both sides, corporate world and coaching leaders who care. So you're right now, you're out of the corporate, you're coaching leaders. Why does this, like helping people find their voice, still light you up? Like, what is it about that really just, because I think we all have goals of what we want to do every single day and we want to live our lives with purpose. What is that for you?
Yeah. Oh, this is a question that really does something to me because we can talk about an impact that you can make with speaking. Because as a leader, the bigger the groups, the more people you're able to reach. The better of a speaker, the more in depth you're able to reach people. Monetary aspects, we didn't even talk about that, but can we see that when you're a better leader, but also can speak to your audience, right? You can attract so many clients. The business potential is exponential. It's absolutely ridiculous. But what really lights up my soul is the fact that speaking represents something for every single individual I work with. So when we see life is the movie and stories are little scenes.
Yeah.
Then you're the actor in your own play. And where in your life are you not really standing on the stage? What you know about me, Sandy, is I lived for a while as a digital nomad. Right now I'm in the Netherlands, but I lived in a lot of places in the world, very far away.
Kind of like, where's Waldo? Like, where's Lori? We never
Yeah.
really.
Sometimes you get a picture you're in Mexico right now. Of course.
You've never come to Austin, so that's going to change.
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah, we made a deal. Yeah. So no, I had some friends visiting the Netherlands, and they were like, "Laurie, we thought about you, but you're probably not here anyways." That was created because I was willing to speak up for my own needs, because I was willing to live in courage instead of fear, even though maybe I waited longer than I wanted because I was fearful. And people that call me up, and some call me up on a Saturday with tears in their voice. And they're just like, Laurie, I have this dream. I just don't know I'm good enough. And they're in this not dark period of their life, but the gray one. It's
Right.
they came back from darkness. They're not on the white, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I'm doing great. But they're in this dowdy period, in the dowdy middle. And they just feel I'm meant for this. I just don't have the courage. Please, Laurie, help me believe in myself that I can actually do this. And the success stories that came from that is just incredible. One of my clients, I just love her. She was so afraid. She did not know what her story was about. She did not have the confidence. She didn't even know where to start. And I don't know the timeline exactly, but let's say 3 months later, she calls me up and she says, Laurie, I got a deal with an official shark from Shark Tank because I was willing to speak up. And the coolest part about this story, and this is what lights me up the most, is she did not apply for Shark Tank. She was in a group that you and me, also we're all in groups.
Yeah.
And she had the opportunity to pitch herself. And she heard that while the event was already going on. And she had 12 hours to prepare, but she was also doing other stuff in those 12 hours. She was listening
Right.
to. So her before thought would be, I'm not able to prepare. I have a very high standard of success, which is what every single person that I work with has, which I appreciate a lot. But sometimes it can also hold us back.
Right.
We're waiting for this perfect time, for this perfect moment where we have this perfect confidence level, which will never come.
No.
So she was willing to lean in, even though it was not perfect. And she learned that she learned the framework that we talked about. And she knew I'm able to convey a message to whomever, wherever, whenever, because I got this. So instead of saying no, because she felt like she would not do a perfect job according to her own rules of success,
Right.
she just said yes. And what happened? She crushed it, of course, because that's most of the time what happens. Of course, she would have done a better job after she watched herself and she's self critical, and we all are. There's
Right.
always a next level on what we do, always. But someone came up to her and said, I got so inspired. This is actually an idea that I would love to invest in. And that was a shark from Shark Tank. So, what I'm most excited about, what lights up my soul, is these personal victories or someone who's able to see the greatness that I've already seen within them. And that's the people that I like to work with. Quit corporate not to earn money. I was doing great. It's I want to work with people that I believe in and that I feel like when I help you, we truly make this world a better place in the way that you do it because you have a beautiful heart and I see your heart and I want your heart to flourish and I want you to the abundance of impact and income that you possibly want because I know that you will do good with it.
Mhm.
So as you can see, I am
Yeah.
fired up thinking about it right now. It really is the most cool thing on earth.
It's amazing. Yeah. So your energy is what really, draws people to you. And you have this energy and this bubbliness about you. But man, you are smart and you have it down and your system and your framework is just incredible. So, we could talk today. We're not going to. But if someone is listening, they've listened to this, heard, the different aspects of speaking, whether it's on stage or whether it's, with your teams or with just your small groups or the corporate, if someone is listening who's afraid of speaking up, not just on stage, right? But in a room that might feel a little bit off, what would you want them to know about their voice?
Mm. I'm going to speak directly to you right now because you're all the way here. You're 40 plus minutes in. Like this, you care. Your voice matters. There's someone listening to you who will come to you in the bathroom saying, you did change me. And maybe for you, you did not see the evidence yet, so you don't believe it. And maybe that person in the bathroom doesn't even have the confidence to come up to you to acknowledge you for what you did. But asking here, are you willing to do it for that one individual that is invisible right now, but is watching, that is listening in? What you said, bubbly, energetic way attracts some people, but it also repels others.
Yep.
Can you be the one that's holding space for all the other people? Like, we need all of us. Your voice matters, your story matters, and we all have a TEDx inside of us. I am on the backside of TED. I know what the framework is about. And every single person has an idea worth sharing. It's all about the frame. And if you don't see that within yourself, just look for help because there's people in your network that do see the light in you. So if you need to borrow or a little bit of confidence, just borrow mine right now.
Um, Laurie, thank you so much for this conversation. And I really appreciate you speaking directly to the audience as well as the tool that you're going to give everyone, which is super exciting. We have all of your socials that are going to be in this episode airs, so it's going to be in the links below. But I would like you to talk a little bit about the Speaker Academy, just about what that looks like, how many weeks it is, and what you end up doing. Because I think the way the Academy is structured is so profound and so powerful with the community. It really helps to build my confidence. And people that know me are like, why do you need confidence? Well, because I do, because I think everyone does. We all kind of fake it. But learning this was a huge game changer for me personally. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. I would love to hear your perspective afterwards as well. What the academy is for people who have this feeling, this knowing, or this wanting of I want to be a speaker. I want to be my next level of speaking. And then within 8 weeks, we go through the framework and we create a keynote. We don't just create a keynote, but you'll actually share that keynote on a real live international stage. So this is not you learning the skills and feeling, oh, I learned so much. This is you going through the incredible, awesome emotional roller coaster of, oh my God, I'm actually going to do this. People that I don't know are going to watch whatever I come up with, and I don't even know what I'm going to come up with. Right. And
Yep.
this is the program that I'm like, one of the programs that I'm most absolute thrilled about, because everybody in the end does it. And you truly have not just the intellectual support and to the understanding of how the storytelling is going to work for you, how the framework applies to you, but also the mental support and what you said about the community and heart-centered epic community of people all around the world, with people from Peru, from Australia, from Europe, from US, doing the same things and having the same thoughts. So you will feel so seen. And that's what it truly is about. You're not doing it.
For me, I think the cool thing was the way that it's structured. It's 8 weeks, and then every 4 weeks a new class comes in. So you see the last 4 weeks of, in your first 4 weeks, you see the last 4 weeks of the people that are with you, and you get to see what they do on stage. I just think the way that it's structured, it really does increase your skill set, gives you that confidence, and there's all these people around you that are just like, you go kind of thing. So I wanted to do a little plug there, because I think a lot of people are afraid to speak. And I know when I say to people, my goal is to get out there on the stages and things like that, people are like, oh, I don't want to do that, but I want to, and this is kind of a way to get your feet wet and figure out how to do it. So yeah, thank you for offering this amazing class, this academy. Your community is fantastic, and the international nature of it. There's so many fascinating people out there that are doing so many things of all ages, which I think is so cool too. How can people get in touch with you? Just, in the Speaking Academy, why don't you let the audience know? We'll obviously drop the links in the bottom.
Yeah. I think the most fun way right now is to go to Instagram, to my URL, or my thing is like Laurie Mabelis, which you see now on the screen, and DM me the word academy. So when you drop me the word academy, and we'll have a conversation, and I also find out that you came from this podcast, I'll add some fun stuff as well for you, because I really appreciate you, Sandy. People are able to see what you did on stage, because when you're in the program, you will see all the talks from all the previous people, and you went through this. So that's going to be really fun. And then I'll make sure you also get the link to the website where people can read a little bit more information about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laurie. We really appreciate your time today, and cannot wait to see what happens next for you.
Cool. Me neither. And you the same. Let's go.
I'll see you in October anyway. Take care.
That's a wrap on this episode of the People Profit Podcast. If you found a nugget of wisdom or even just a spark of inspiration, share the love, subscribe, leave us a review, and pass the episode along to a colleague who's ready to build a people-first culture. Big thanks to our sponsor, Human Power Solutions, for championing workplace where humans thrive and profits rise. Want to learn how they can energize your team? Head over to hpowersolutions.com to get started. I'm Sandra Coker, reminding you that when you invest in people, you invest in profit. See you next time.